College Football 26 is coming out this summer, and with it will come a whole new roster full of players that have completely different stats from last year. There will be brand new overpowered players, and that's what I'm going to go over today. Some players who just have their stats boosted, who just have crazy good stats, and they reflect that in real life. But with that being said, let's get straight into it. The first one is going to be pretty obvious. Arguably the best player in college football at all, it's Jeremiah Smith. Obviously, he was crazy good throughout the season, even better somehow in the playoffs. So he's going to kind of come back as one of the hype guys, kind of like Shadur, but he actually deserved those stats. I always felt like Shadur wasn't as good as his stats displayed on the game, but you know, I've counted the video about that. I do think they will boost a couple of his less good stats, if you can kind of understand what I mean, just to make him an all-around, you know, crazy receiver, really good in this game. I assume he's going to be rated in the high 90s. I could even see, you know, 97, 98, maybe a 99, but I think that's a little bit pushing it. He's also tall and fast, which is, as we know, a cheat code in this game. You know, if you can get off that line quickly on a go route, at least in 25, then you are set. Kind of like Nick Harbor, if you know what I'm talking about, from South Carolina from this year's game. So he broke all kinds of records this year. It's going to be crazy. He's going to have a ton of hype, so I'm excited to see how they rate him in this upcoming game. Next up is Caleb Downs. I know, another Ohio State guy, but they are just loaded with talent, especially this year. He was already crazy good last year and even the year before that on Alabama, so expect him to come back this year even better, and with a new defensive coordinator, so that will be a little different. We'll see how that goes, but in College Football 25, he will be extremely fun to use. He's going to have a ton of good stats, probably, you know, a crazy ball hawk, a crazy good tackler. So, you know, expect him to just be really crazy, and I think he's going to be around a 95 overall, maybe 94, maybe 96, somewhere in that range. Next is Dylan Stewart, and it may be someone you may have not heard of as much, but we all know how blocking is in the game. It's not very good. If you have a good edge rusher, you know, it's going to be pretty bad for the quarterback. So, you know, with not a whole lot of good edge rushers in college football, Dylan Stewart is going to be a standout player in College Football 26. You know, he's going to have crazy good stats. He already had real, you know, life stats this past year that were really good as a freshman. So when he comes back to South Carolina, make sure you use that team because he's going to be unstoppable on the edge. So expect to hear his name a lot more this year. Drew Aller is someone I have who's going to have really good stats. I understand his last games weren't really his best, but he was doing really well earlier in the season, and you know that kind of recency bias that happens a lot. It's kind of blinded us, but Drew Aller did do a lot of good things. So when he comes back to Penn State, he's going to be that veteran quarterback, and really with a college landscape with few of the quarterbacks that actually have a ton of experience, it's kind of a weird year. I do think he's going to be one of the top rated quarterbacks in College Football 26 because they've already seen his game film and see how he plays, because a lot of these guys are coming off, you know, a backup season like Julian Sayin on Ohio State, for example. He put up pretty good stats in rushing and passing, so expect him to be pretty well balanced. I mean, I expect him to be able to run in the game, you know, get the first down if you need him to, and also be a pretty good passer. Next, I have Ryan Williams, and he was on top of the world for, you know, a few weeks earlier this season with his Georgia game and stuff like that. He was going crazy. He understandably did not keep it up the whole entire season. You know, he kind of cooled off, if you want to say that, for a little bit, but it doesn't mean he's not going to be strong in College Football 26. I could see him being a top receiver in the game. He's going to be really quick. He's going to be really athletic. So once again, it does help that he plays for an Alabama, a really good team, and I said this for Ohio State too. They do get that boost because people like to use those teams and they want to use their favorite players on those teams, but coming off his true freshman season, he will settle in this year and become a great player in the game and real life. Obviously, having Milroe gone is going to be a bit of a problem, especially for me, because I loved using Alabama in this game. Their O-line is really good. Their quarterback can scramble, which I love, and then he can throw it, and there's good receivers out there. So I'm getting a little bit off topic, but I'm going to be sad that that Alabama team, at least in the game, won't be there anymore. He definitely will not be rated as high as Jeremiah Smith, as I said earlier, because I think Jeremiah Smith will be probably the top rated player in the whole entire game, but he still will be pretty high for a receiver. I could see him somewhere around a 92 or a 93. Next is Carson Beck, and there's still a lot to discover about him. There's still a lot of controversy and debate over his name, and he's undeniably a good quarterback. If you go back to my videos last spring, I was talking about him being the top rated quarterback in the game, which I was correct about, by the way, but I still think he's going to be pretty high rated. I don't know if he'll actually go down, but he won't go up like I thought he would, because on Miami, I think it's going to be a really good fit for him. I think he'll do pretty well, but going into the season, when the game comes out in July, we won't have seen him really at all at Miami, so they're just going to go off what what they know. So I still think he's going to be somewhere around a 94 or a 95 because of just kind of his name. And the same thing with Aller, him being a veteran, him being in the game for a while, he's going to have that, stat boost, and people are going to want to use him in the game as well. So he could be like McCord this year, where he comes back and has a phenomenal year after transferring from a big school. Next is Jeremiah Love, obviously a very talented back. He had a really good season this year at Notre Dame. People are comparing him to Genty, even saying he's better in some cases. I can't say I agree with that claim, but he probably will be the highest rated running back this year in the game. His season this year will definitely boost his ratings up because EA is going to look at that and they're going to realize he's just really good. I think he's going to be rated about a 94, maybe a 95, maybe creeping up a little bit throughout the season, but for now I think probably a 94 is a good spot for him. Next is Arch Manning, and I really think this one speaks for itself. I don't think there's a player with really more hype and more on his shoulders right now, especially for somebody who has barely played. I know he started a game last season, but it wasn't really against a good opponent, so we'll just see how he does this year, but a lot of people are counting on him to bring Texas to the national championship and stuff. So with Quinn Ewers gone, it's completely his show. It's his whole program. He can do whatever he wants, but I just think he has a lot to do. I'm not hating on him, but he just, he has a lot on his shoulders. He has to match these expectations, but when the game comes out in July, EA is going to put his stats very high for the same reason as Shadur. People are going to want to play with him on Texas in the game and stuff, so they're going to make sure he's a good player. But I do think EA will put his stats higher than anybody else who has played as little as he has, besides one other player, and that's the last one on this list. Bryce Underwood, a recruit hyped up like crazy. He's still in high school. Maybe he, did early admissions, but you get what I mean. He was playing high school football just this past fall, but now he has to go to Michigan and assumedly start there and, make some moves as a huge program in the Big Ten. He's going to be a true freshman, but I do think his stats are going to be high for someone who has never played a game, and it's going to be one of those hype things again. Maybe he'll prove me wrong and actually, go crazy out in the field and do a ton of good stuff, but I really don't see that happening. Maybe it's because I'm biased, but I don't know. EA with no game film to go off will just drive his stats up a little bit. It's the same thing they did in College Football 25 with tons of players, so I would not be surprised if they did that in College Football 26. I fully expect him to be rated in the high 80s. I could see, 88, 89, really good running stats, probably decent throwing stats. And so if it's like that, then he's going to be basically Milroe Part 2, and he's going to be really fun to use in the game and, just kind of scramble around. I don't know how good his surrounding cast at Michigan is really going to be, not like Alabama, I guess is what I'm saying, but I still think if you get him to transfer in your dynasty or something like that, he's going to be really fun to use inside the game. So with that being said, that's going to do it for today's video. Those are the 10 players that I really feel like are going to be overpowered and really fun to use in College Football 26. So obviously it's still a long ways away, but I will get more into these videos about 26 as the spring progresses. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.